Welcome to Wild, Women in Lending Determined to Make an Impact. I'm your host, Robyn LaVassaur. They say our biggest fear isn't being inadequate. It's being powerful beyond measure. In this podcast, I will share how to break through imaginary ceilings, lean into success, discovering your purpose, and understanding how to create the business and life of your dreams. From failures to triumphs and all the tactics in between, let's jump into the wild arena together. Welcome to today's episode of Wild with Robyn LaVassaur. We are going to talk about the big D word. Now, there is a D word in lending for sure, and we talk about why people do mortgages, and often those actually start with a D. And so if I were to give you those D words, it would be, of course, divorce, right? Death, diapers. There's a lot of different things that cause people to buy, and we've always attached kind of in a fun way the D words to it. But I'm going to talk about a D word that actually is the one missing for many people to take their business to the next level in general. And if you could guess it, that D word is discipline. Discipline is taking action even when you don't want to. Discipline is choosing something over your emotions, saying, I don't feel like it, I don't have time for it, I don't want to today, instead of I'm going to do it because I said I was going to do it because I need it to do it, I'm going to take the action. Discipline is so interesting, and it's probably, if I'm being super raw and vulnerable, one of the weakest areas that I have had to work to overcome countless times and continue in different areas of my life to counterbalance my lack of discipline, right? My feelings, if you will, over doing exactly what is necessary. So when you look at high achievers in general, if you watch their habits, if you understand how they got to where they are now, it's so interesting because I think we often miss a lot of the cues and we start to say things like, they're so talented, they're so lucky, they're so fortunate, they worked hard, they've been doing this for a long time. And I will tell you, the answer to all of that could be true, but at the heart of all of it, they have a discipline that outweighs everything else. And discipline is interesting because it's something that is found, I believe, from an early age, and it's often given to you by mentors, hopefully, parents, if you will. And I think sometimes people think discipline as if, you're getting punished, grounded, something like that. Not really. Discipline is having the discipline to say, hey, you need to turn off your screen and go to bed at a decent hour. You need to sit at the table and do your homework, right? Having the discipline to study for a test, having the discipline to go to classes, especially in high school when the freedom is open, right, to choose whether or not you want to go. So it's really, if you take yourself all the way back to the beginning, let's call it kindergarten and school, you need to have very little overall discipline because someone is handling that for you. They tell you exactly what you need to do. And at those ages, we're compliant enough. But if you really look at that, it's creating, hopefully, new habits of discipline. It gets to a place where really when you are in high school, they start to open it up, probably the most for my instance, your sophomore, junior, senior year, where all of a sudden you take control of those disciplines. Are you going to show up for class today? How hard are you going to study for a test? Are you going to wake up on time? Are you going to work out hard? Are you going to do the things needed to make the team or the club or the whatever group that you want to be part of, a band, whatever it is? Do you have the discipline to get yourself there? And that is often seen with work ethic, right? With different practices. Well, all of a sudden you get to adulthood, if you will, and I can't tell you how many times, and it's a whole nother podcast to think about parenting, but man, how many times people say, oh, my kid, they graduated, they're out of the house, I kind of did my job, and all of a sudden, all of the disciplines land solely on you, the grown-up, right? The grown-up to make all the decisions. How are you going to spend the money? Are you going to say yes to opening that credit card at the counter that they offer where there's, a $20 discount? Are you going to, buy something? Do you have the discipline to still ask for help or guide yourself? And it's really super interesting because we always have two sides to us, right? Of one side saying, you know what you need to do, and the other side giving you permission to let yourself off the hook. And if you really think about that, that's in all things, right? Like it's because we judge ourselves on our intentions instead of our actions. I'm going to say that again for a second. We judge ourselves on our intentions instead of our actions. What's crazy is we judge others on their actions, not their intentions. Why? Because we didn't know their intentions. We could only see their actions. Well, when you reverse that, people can only see our actions. They don't understand our intentions. So how does that all apply to business? Well, especially when you choose to be an entrepreneur, it's almost easier. A lot of people go into, the military. Why? Because the truth is there's massive amounts of discipline that still exists in the military, right? They're telling you exactly where to be, all of the things that you need to do. And not only are they telling you, but you are signed up for a certain amount of time where you know in your mind, like, hey, I need to follow the rules to make this easier and I have to stay put, right? I'm on a 4-year contract. I'm on whatever it may be. In the normal world, that's not the case, right? You take a job, you can quit or keep all on your own free will. You can show up or not, all on your own free will. If you lack discipline, this is not always just an employee mindset, but you decide to become an entrepreneur because you want to do whatever you want, I will tell you, we are our own worst enemy most of the time. Otherwise, the entire world would choose entrepreneurship with the promise, if you will, the guarantee in their mind of making a bunch of money and having freedom and flexibility. But the word discipline is really, it's freedom in its own way, but it's different than what we perceive as freedom, right? Discipline is saying, it's not about at all what I want. It's exactly what I need to do to get the result that's on the other side. And so how often do you show up at your work and think, hey, today, here are the disciplines that I have to have. The discipline to create more business. The discipline to tackle hard things first, not last. The discipline to make small promises and keep them. The discipline to start and end on times that work for me and my family, right? My personal life as well as my professional life. The discipline to know who your client is and who they are not. The discipline to not overcommit, overpromise, sell something, manipulate, if you will, something versus influence. There are so many areas of our lives that really need more discipline to create exactly what we're wanting on the other side. And the problem is we want that and we're trying to find ways to get there that are so much longer, harder, more frustrating because we simply won't put the discipline, right, on ourselves to get there. I was so guilty of this. I remember when they said, build your calendar. And if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist, meaning you'll never get to it. Now, the truth is nobody follows a perfect calendar every single day. There might be somebody out there, but I don't know of them. Most people can follow their calendar, if they even have one built out, less than 50% of the time. Because we're constantly in reactionary mode. We don't have the discipline to stop interruptions, to follow the calendar, to stay on the calendar. If you can follow a calendar 80% of the time and everything that you need to get done ends up on the calendar, you're going to win. That's a discipline. It's a discipline to say, this is where I need to be. This is where I committed to be right this minute. That's a discipline. I'm willing to put this on the calendar and commit to it. That's a discipline, right? Hey, I'm going to start and stop my business at the same time. I can't tell you how many people I've coached nationwide when they have the freedom to do what they want that don't start and stop work with any disciplines at all. And then they think in their mind, gosh, I worked way too late tonight, but oh, you're forgetting you didn't start till 10 a.m. that morning, right? And so did you really work way too late, or is in your mind you just forgot that you started late, right? Have you ever thought about tracking your food and what you consume, and then later if you didn't write it all down, the truth is you consumed more than you gave yourself credit for? Have you ever said out loud, I haven't eaten all day? And then a little bit later, you're like, wait a minute, I actually did eat. I'm just really hungry right now. And it feels like maybe I haven't eaten all day, but I did eat. It was just a few hours ago. I'm telling you guys, we think our minds are a steel trap, and they're not. They are fueled and powered by discipline. And when we can make that discipline voice louder than the emotional voice, we're going to win. We're going to win over and over and over and over again. I don't love to work out. I have learned to love to work out, but the discipline finally got me to where, hey, I'm working out a whole bunch, right? The discipline helped me lose a bunch of weight and get myself into a different spot. The discipline of, I'll have a drink from time to time. But the discipline is, do you have 10 drinks or do you have 1 or 2 drinks on occasion? That's a discipline. Life is meant for you to have to make, right? The saying of everything is a choice. It is so true. And in business, I think the single hardest discipline in an entrepreneurial standpoint is to do the things that truly create future business, no matter what, instead of being focused on the business that's already there. That was probably my single hardest transition, is I wanted to work on what was already in the pipeline in lending versus trust that what's in the pipeline will continue to get through the pipeline and close out, and always focus on prospecting and leads. That's a discipline. And it's a discipline that will get you off of the mortgage roller coaster if you have it. And it's also, if you lack discipline there, you will constantly ride the ride like this, right? You will constantly go up and down, and all the other disciplines in your life will go out the window. And so if there were a few main points that I would say around it, I would say follow a calendar, have total control around the calendar alone. I could do a separate podcast just on calendaring alone, but the disciplines of a calendar are massive. If you are filling it in reactively, proactively fill in your calendar. Proactively, and then be disciplined enough to see that spot that says client meeting. If you don't have a client meeting, you better find a client to make a client meeting during that spot. That's again, I'm going to keep saying the word over and over again. That's that discipline, right? That's that discipline that'll take you to a higher level. When you are with clients, setting proper expectations, following your systems all the way through, keeping things on track timing-wise, knowing that, hey, I've got a great system and we have the discipline to follow it, versus reactionary, we did the best we could, we try, we do all of these things. That has nothing to do with discipline, right? That's just being a good person and working hard. That's not what gets it done, you guys. What gets it done is really having systems that you follow and that your team follows and that everybody involved follows with the discipline, right? Imagine if a hospital, I always use a medical analogy, just real quick, like imagine if a hospital didn't have the discipline to follow the proper systems to take you into a major surgery. Now, they learned over the years, right? And over the probably massive medical lawsuits at some point, where how many times, if you've ever been in the hospital or had a surgery yourself, how many times do they verify your name, your date of birth, what's happening, the side or the area that it's happening in, and let you know next steps, confirm your allergies? How many people and how many times do they check all of that data? Why? Because it's a system that they are disciplined to give you the very best outcome. Your business needs the exact same thing. Are you disciplined in following a system? Are you disciplined with your post-closing follow-up? There's so much to the word discipline in all areas of our lives, whether we are disciplined around our money, our schedule, our time, our joy, right? Not being willing to let things seep in to your personal life at home, to your family dinner, to the birthday party you're about to be at. As an entrepreneur, without discipline, I can tell you are setting yourself up for not only a roller coaster, but an absolutely chaotic roller coaster that you never know what to expect around the next turn. And it is a ride that will exhaust you. It will wear you out. It will have other people wanting to get off. And little by little by little, you'll find yourself on that roller coaster all alone. And so if there's one thing that I could say, it's find discipline within yourself. Commit to 1 or 2 new disciplines every year. And until they become just an everyday habit where they are so non-negotiable that they don't even, yes, they require discipline, but it's an automatic discipline versus I'm gonna keep saying that word until I get there. Man, put that in, implement 1 or 2 things, nail them down, know, hey, I'm doing it. And I always say about 90 days of doing it and doing it well puts you on autopilot, 90 full days, right? Now I can add a new one. It's when we try to add everything at once that things get a little crazy. So have the discipline to be patient, add a couple things to your business, make those changes. And I promise you down the road, you'll look back and think, man, am I grateful for all of those hard choices, but right choices that I just made. We'll see you soon.